You're listening to the Live Out Loud podcast with River Wynn and Michelle Flamer.
River, do it.
Michelle, do it.
Just do it.
Do it.
Oh man, it is Do It July.
Is that what we're calling July? Do it July.
Do It July. You know what that means?
What are we doing though?
Yeah, you know what you're doing? You are doing things that are good for you and your higher good.
Yep, I'm on board with that.
Do It July.
Okay.
How are the last couple of weeks for you? Did you do it?
I did the last 2 weeks. I did it solidly.
Yeah, you did.
I just spent 2 full weeks in parent mode for 2 weeks straight with my kids. And I'm kind of in shock at how fast it went by.
Yeah.
And we also had a really amazing time. And I'm also sad that it's over so fast because I really loved having that time with my kids.
Yeah.
And
was it nice
now,
to like just not even think about the schedule of like drop off, pick up? It was like you just got to enjoy just kind of being present and like 24 hours a day.
Yeah, and it was really eye-opening. I mean, it was last summer when we had 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, as well, in that my kids were more regulated.
Yeah.
And I got to enjoy more of my time with them, like really enjoy my time with them, because it wasn't just 4 days of regulating them and then sending them back to the other parent like we normally do. And so I got to not only like have more enjoyment and quality time with my kids, but I also got to enjoy 2 full weekends with them, and I never have them on weekends, which was really fun. I took my son backpacking. My sister came to visit, which it was just like a great time. And now I am starting 2 weeks solo without my kids.
Okay, how does that feel?
It started today, and I'm having a little bit of decision paralysis and overwhelm because I've spent the last 2 weeks just like going, having fun with the kids, like not really responding to emails, texts, all of that. Just really focused on the kids and enjoying my time with them, and thinking the entire time, well, I'm about to have 2 weeks. I can get so much done in 2 weeks. So I'm just going to not do anything on my to-do list until I get to that 2 weeks. And now the 2 weeks is here and it's day one. And I'm like, oh shit. What do I do with myself? Well, I have a lot to do. But then being ADHD, my brain's like, well, where do we start? And it's overwhelming. So I've had a little bit of decision paralysis today, and it's fine because today is also transition day for me, and it'll be fine tomorrow. I'll be back into my routine tomorrow. No big deal, but I'm allowing myself to just experience what I'm feeling today.
Yeah, I said just make it. It's a Sunday. It's like no decision is the right decision today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Just sit with it.
Yeah. I dig that. I just got back from the holiday down in San Diego. That was really fun. I had so much fun with Michelle, and God, the weather was about 35 degrees cooler than Phoenix.
Oh, that must have been so nice.
It's like Africa here. It is so freaking hot. You saw this, like the picture that I sent you this morning was that sunrise.
Yeah.
But it like that exemplifies the sun at that lower edge of the, just popping over the horizon.
Yeah.
Just sitting in Phoenix. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, we're gonna hang out here.
Yeah, no, I'm not down with that. That was the one thing that kind of stopped me from moving to Phoenix when I considered it many years ago, was the heat.
I mean, honestly, it's only hot for, these 3.5 months or whatever. It's still better than snow, but
I'm gonna be a snowbird someday. I'm gonna be living in Oregon all summer and then being in Arizona all winter.
That's because the rest of the time it is perfection.
Arizona, Utah, that's going to be my life. Yep, for sure.
But I only have five more years here and then peace out. I like my, let's do it.
Do it. Do
Let's
it.
do it. All right.
Do
So,
it.
what else you had to visit with did you have any family come? I think you said you
Yeah,
had,
yeah. My sister and my niece were here for a couple of days,
and you guys talked.
really
And
nice.
there were some cool like moments in that talk. So, but you're gonna pull out a couple of nuggets.
Yeah, I just, not only with my sister recently, but a couple other people I've had this conversation around people feeling like they can see what they need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
They can feel their discontent. They can
Mm-hmm.
feel the unrest. They can feel the lack of peace. They can feel the wounds, the trauma, all of that. It's like oozing. They see it, they feel it, they're aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then the question is, what the fuck do I do with that?
Mm-hmm.
How do I, like, what are actionable steps to get rid of that feeling, to
Mm-hmm.
heal that stuff, like to feel better, to feel different, to not be sitting in this? And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people, I look back to my own kind of journey with therapy and healing and growth. And I think that there are times when it's really daunting and you don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So what are like actionable steps? Like how do you move through that? Is a question I'm hearing people say a lot to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many opportunities in a day when you're feeling that unsettledness or you're feeling you like, well, I think people who go through trauma, I'm kind of learning about this a bit, is that they are the most self-deprecating people. They are actually the hardest on themselves and it's all around worth and shame.
Yeah.
And then it's like a vicious cycle around the guilt and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, for me, I always suggest therapy. I mean, that's like my first thing to like suggest. But I think if I've ever felt in a, in a place like that, I just have thought to myself, like, what could I be doing this minute that pushes me into like a better space or like, or because I suggest to friends and stuff a lot of times when you're fighting the negativity, so let's just say it's energy, right? Bad energy, good energy, energy, just so it doesn't have a body that it exists in, it's just a negative energy. Then creating like a list on one side are things that your negative, your self-talk is suggesting or saying. Write all those down, but for every one of those words, you find a word to counteract it, or by a negative to a positive. So something positive that you
Mm-hmm.
can then say, well, I have a full fridge. Wow, I have a roof over my head. I mean, it just depends on where people are in their journey, but if they're in that trauma laden space, then getting them back to basics might help like recenter, integrate, better into their and feel a little bit more embodied.
Yeah. That reframe is really important. I do that a lot where I would write out, negative thoughts or negative beliefs and then reframe it with something that's the truth. Instead of, a belief that I've carried in my body
Yes.
that's outdated. But, even that I think for some people could be really hard because if they're really stuck in that space of self-deprecation, and really truly not believing that they're worth anything and comparing themselves outward, like they're looking externally. Um, I think it can be really hard to even do that reframe. So it's like really the first step is you have to be willing to ask the questions of why do I feel that way? Like why?
Yeah.
I don't believe I'm good enough. Well, Why don't I
Why?
believe I'm good enough?
Yeah. Asking those questions.
And who told me that I wasn't good enough?
Mm-hmm.
What are the stories that I'm telling around that?
Mm-hmm.
So even being able to identify the stories that you're telling yourself is kind of a big first step for a lot of people. And then I think like nervous system regulation has a lot to do with it too. You know,
Cold
if
plunge.
yeah, if your nervous system is just completely out of whack from childhood trauma or living in fight or flight mode for so long, it's really hard to take that self-awareness and be productive with it,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't get quiet inside yourself long enough to hear the answers or even hear the negative stories that you're telling yourself and
Mm-hmm.
recognize it for what it is, because they're just stories that we're telling ourselves. And so it's, finding out, where do the stories come from?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I know that you feel the same way too about like IFS therapy
Totally.
over traditional talk therapy, because it's, asking, where do you feel that in your body when you say it? When you say, I want to feel good enough, where do you feel that?
Mm-hmm.
What's coming to mind?
Yeah.
What's the story behind that?
Mm-hmm.
Does it go back to childhood? Did you not have anyone telling you that you were good enough? Were you like overperforming and trying to gain parents' love and affection, and it was never given to you?
Mm-hmm.
It's storytelling. So then you have to unravel the story and see where it starts.
Yeah, I like all that. That's really cool. It's really good. Wow. I feel like we're in session.
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Orna is in session.
But the thing is, like, and you were talking about wanting to talk about, speaking your truth,
Uh-huh.
but it's really hard to know what your truth is if you're still telling yourself old stories.
Yeah. Talk about the irony in that, right?
Hmm.
Like the truth around exactly as you just said it, in a sense of like you might not even know your truth. You might not you're speaking truthfully about what you have always thought it was, what you always think it could be.
I mean, I'll give an example. Like before, when I was running my photography business full time, I would run into this scenario constantly where if I would send my photography clients their finished gallery, and if they didn't immediately open it and affirm for me that they loved what I had done for them,
Yeah.
I would go into full blown panic mode. And
Hmm.
I would literally be useless as a human being until I finally heard from them if they loved the photos or not. And I would be working up all these scenarios in my head of like, they hated me, I must have said something that triggered them, like all this shit would come up. And I would tell myself the story of like, well, I'm not good enough because they haven't responded and told me that they like it, so I must not be good
Mhm.
enough. When in reality, now I'm like, oh, took my clients 2 days to open their email. That's because they're busy parents and they're working. They have a lot going on. And guess what? Sometimes my gallery emails land in your spam box and I have to follow up and be like, hey, did you get your email? Because I can see that you haven't opened it. Did you find it? And they're like, oh shit, I didn't know. Let me look in my spam box. And then like 10 minutes, they're like, oh my God, I love these photos so much. But
Uh-huh.
like previously, I would waste so much time in my day and lose hours of sleep obsessing over this idea that I had, the stories I was telling myself, that because someone wasn't verbally affirming my worth and my creativity and my
Yeah.
talent, that I sucked.
Mm.
And I had to heal that because
Yeah.
that was an untrue story. That wasn't a true story. It
No.
wasn't true. The truth was that I do great work and they loved it and they wanted to pay me for it and they did and they loved it and they moved on. They got their
Yeah.
photos and they moved on. That's it.
Yeah. You're like, that's it. End of story.
That's it.
Ba-da-da.
But when my self-worth is no longer wrapped up in it, it's changed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't tell those stories anymore. So my question would be to anyone who's doubting themselves all the time and telling those stories, like, what is the root of that story?
Mm-hmm.
Where is that coming from? And is that true?
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to hear someone else saying that about themselves, how would you feel hearing
Mm-hmm.
them say that? Like if you look at someone that you know that is very successful and very talented and a wonderful human being,
Mm-hmm.
and you sit down with them and you hear them self depreciating themselves,
Yeah.
how does it make you feel?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hear people say that to themselves, and I'm like, that makes me feel sad because I think you're really fucking accomplished and you inspire
Mm-hmm.
me. Why are you so hard on yourself? And then I realize, oh, I used to do that too. And it comes full circle. I'm like,
Yep.
oh, wow. And then that goes back to the energetics thing of the energy you're putting out to the world, the stories you're telling is coming right back to you.
Yeah.
You're self-sabotaging constantly when you tell these negative stories about yourself.
Mm-hmm. It's really hard when you care about somebody who's in that space. You know what I mean? It's like it's hard to know sort of where to which landing you should, sort of sit on with them in that space, because there's a couple of different ways, that obviously, like most, you can go about it, and you just have to think what the intent is behind that. Like, are they self-sabotaging because clearly that they've stated what they want, their desires, all these things? Or are they just still so unconscious and wrapped up in the trauma stories and can't even hear or see anything, what's in front of them?
Mm-hmm.
Or three, they're imposters. They're just have a big mask on.
Mm-hmm.
They are just verbalizing, what you like, mirroring what they think you want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard because someone also has to be in a position where they're ready to hear what you have to say
Mm-hmm.
if they ask for your advice,
Mm-hmm.
if they ask for your feedback,
Mm-hmm.
and you can give it to them, but then they're responsible for what they do with it.
Yep.
And not everyone's ready to do something with it.
Nope.
You can see people, I think we all have someone in our lives that we've watched dance around their self-worth or like toxic patterns in their life
Yep.
for years. Like in terms of dating, like we all have someone in our life that we're like, oh God, she's dating the exact same kind of person again.
Mm-hmm.
When is this gonna change? They're
Totally.
doing the same thing over and over again. Well, it's like not gonna change until one, they become aware of the pattern, and two, they want to actually take actionable steps to break the pattern.
That's the main thing right there, I think, is that actionable step piece. It's also, being truthful means you're being truthful and you can say your truth, but there's also a time where you can discern the truth a little bit to achieve what you want to do. I don't think being overly truthful is healthy. I feel like just being truthful in a state of being present. I mean, I feel like also I it's so challenging at times because you don't want to say the wrong thing, but you don't want to like trigger anybody.
Yes and no.
Well, it really does depend on the whole
It
circumstance.
depends. I mean, I have always felt that in terms of triggers that, um, especially in terms of dating a relationship or with family, that we are not responsible for someone else's trigger.
True.
That's their responsibility because
Yeah.
it's their wounds, their healing, their reaction, their emotions. They're responsible for that. That said, we are responsible for harming people. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to make a distinction. I can't remember if I've made this, if we've talked about this on here or not before. I can't remember because sometimes I
I
can't
don't
remember
remember
what
the
we talk
harming.
about. But there's a difference. There's a distinction between hurting someone and harming someone.
Yeah.
And people feel hurt when they are triggered or their expectations have not been met.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a them thing.
Yeah.
You're not responsible for someone else's triggers. You're not responsible for their hurt feelings. You're not responsible for how they feel by you being you. But you are responsible for purposely, intentionally harming other people.
Mm-hmm.
And not being self-aware enough to recognize when you are harming someone
Mm-hmm.
with your truth
Mm-hmm.
or unkindness.
Mm-hmm.
And so like in partnership or dating, if you know someone's triggers and you continue to do the thing that triggers them, even knowing it, then you do become responsible because you're harming them.
Right.
Versus a one time, like, I didn't know that was a trigger, triggered you.
Right.
You know?
Totally. But yeah, I like the hurtful, harmful versus harmful.
Yeah.
That's those are good distinctions too.
Yeah, because I think then it removes the pressure of responsibility where we feel like we have to people please and we have to caretake other people's feelings all the time. I think that socially we just have this construct that like you should never do anything that should hurt anybody else's feelings. And the reality is that that's just not realistic.
Yeah.
Because like, especially like, because we talk about dating so much, like there are going to be times when you're going to hurt someone's feelings by speaking your truth and like, hey, this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
I'm speaking my truth, telling you this doesn't work for me, but I'd like to stay friends. That's probably going to hurt their feelings in some way, shape, or form because of their expectations or how they react to things. But that is their responsibility.
Or they tell you to lose weight.
Or yeah, telling you to lose weight. What the fuck? Like, no, not cool. Ghosting
sucks.
Harmful. That's harmful.
Yeah, it's harmful.
Love bombing.
Yep.
Harmful. Intentionally blocking and unblocking people on social media when you can't handle their feelings.
Harmful.
Toxic. Unhealed.
Oh my God. It's all, yep, it really is.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me. And it's 3:33 on the clock. Look.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. You have your watch on?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
You don't wear it very often, I think, because you went camping. No,
this is my Fitbit tracker that I started wearing again.
Nice.
333.
333. It's good stuff. Boom. Because I have my 333 tattoo.
Remind me I know what 333 is, but for our audience, what is 333?
A master. I don't forget. There's like so many different reasons for it. It's a divine, it's divine twin flame and soulmate number.
Yeah, it's a good one.
What do you think 333? What do you say 333 is? Because you know I'm gonna Google it right now.
I mean, I personally, when I see angel numbers, they all have different meanings.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily sit and look up the meaning each time. I see them and I'm like, it feels like a little hug from my guides. Like, we see you.
333 is a message from the universe and your angels to find balance, celebrate yourself, and lean into joy and creation.
Bam. There you have it.
I mean, that's really it right there, folks.
Speak your truth.
We spoke our truth. I love these. Short and sweet, baby. We're doing it.
Short and sweet. I love it.
Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode today, be sure to subscribe and share because what do we say, baby?
Sharing is caring.